Okay, so this afternoon we have a vintage caddy two-piecer double CV. It's got two Saginaw double carbon CV joints on the back section of the rear drive shaft. It's for my customer Tim's 64 Caddy Eldorado, and it had driven into a rumbling problem, he said, which, you know, it's a vintage car, and there's all kinds of things that could cause that. But like after I got involved in this, it became pretty apparent that the rumbling problem, I mean, of course it could have been U-joints too, but the centering devices in the CVs right here and there were dried out, and you know, the U-joints are easier to service. The centering device is equally as important. So that was the root of his problem, and the biggest problem with that problem was there's no parts to service these early CVs, these Saginaw style CVs. There's two different generations of them that I can see, and maybe there's three, because I've seen variations in these too, these old caddies and the older vehicles that have them in them. And the rub to this is how this is orientated. And some of you guys that have had GM trucks in the 80s, 70s, 80s, all the GM trucks, Dodge trucks, man, some of the Fords, Lincoln Continentals had these same Saginaw CV heads in them, you know, throughout the decades. But there was two different generations for sure, and maybe three. They evolved. So this is the one that's most common. Everybody would probably recognize that if you've had a Blazer or a half-ton Chevy truck or 1-ton, or, you know, in those decades. What wears out is the ball. This ball is the one that rides on that trunnion right there, and these three elements here, the three wear pads, they're spring-loaded. They ride inside of a socket, and that's how this goes. I made a little sketch. This kind of left out one socket, but what happens is that clunks down in there, and that's spring-loaded. Boom. Okay, that's all good, right? Yeah. Except for the only service parts available for these are the later ones, and that's an inch 907 ball, and these older ones take an 880 thousandths ball. Luckily the trunnion is the same, where it presses on. Well, to be fair, these early ones, the yoke, the ball, that's the ball pressed on a trunnion on this one, but these early ones were all integral. It was all one piece. And when the ball wore out, they sold you a kit. You had to turn that down, and that's the way this one was. Because when this was brought to my buddy Boots at Williams Brothers, and he turned it down, turned the trunnions down, and put the ball kit on them. But the problem was it wouldn't reassemble because of the difference of the diameter in the balls, that 25,000th diameter difference. It won't let them go together. As well as these pads, the wear pads that fit into that socket right there, are different as well. The older ones are smaller, and the pocket that they fit into is smaller. The spring setup is totally different. These old guys here have like a pigtail spring. It's only about that tall, and it's like 3 loops, and it's smaller on the base, and it gets wider at the top, kind of like a funnel. So, long story short, we didn't have no parts to fix it. Boots, he just called it quits and sent it, and the owner brought it down to me, knowing that I'm dumb enough to persevere and just not stop until it was fixed. So, I made a little fixture and ground. These are hardened steel balls. I ground these to 880, and that I wasn't well on my way, but I finally got down to the point that that's what had to happen. So that's what I did. So that worked on this CV here because it still had the older collets in it. These guys were still in it that worked with the 880 ball. So when I got an 880 ball on that trunnion and put it together. That one worked with a little tuning. I did have to massage that quite a bit, but I got it. That one was like the easy one. This one back here, the little collets no longer existed. So Boots had a set of collets in there with a modified some. They're modified more now, and I have a more modified ball in that one than I do in this one. But the end result is ace. It all works. It's all tuned up. So sorry for the lengthy explanation. And here's center bearing. This is the bearing out of this thing. You can't tell me doing it by my fingers, but it feels like it's full of rocks. And that was loud. I'm sure it was loud, but that was, just one of the other things going on. So it's got all new Spicer snap tights in it. I stopped counting at 17 pieces here, 17 individual pieces, and I think I didn't count the nut that holds this on. I do have the caddy spanner wrench that I've made for these things. This is, like I have said in the past, I get one of these old caddies once a year, seems like. This is about as deep a dive as you could take into one of these things, I feel, with the absence of parts that are available to get it repaired with. This is probably on the upper edge of what was possible, because it's nice you got U-joints and bearings, but without them centering devices, it's a task. But like I said, I'm fussy and I refuse to be defeated by inanimate objects, so we'll break her up. She's chrome now. This is about as good a result as you can possibly hope for. 0 at the center bearing. Nobody home. 0 at the front. Oh, that's the rear axle. Sorry. Yeah, there's one thing I didn't mention about this too. This is also tube-and-tube construction, which doesn't age well. 0 at the transmission. So the tube-and-tube thing, this is a one size tube, you can see that, and there's another size tube. That literally has a rubber element in between, like there and there, and it's just a friction fit. They jam them together. This car has been well cared for. The problem Tim had with it is just simply duration. The grease just dried up in those centering devices. That's the story. I would caution anybody that ever watches this that has one of these old caddies, even if the U-joints are good, you really, really ought to bring them over and service these CVs before they get torn up as much as Tim's did. Just if they were just in the cruddy, dry grease stage, that would be way easier to do than what we went through here. So, but overall, this is going to be a win for Tim. His car's been down a while, and I'm looking forward to getting this back to him. I'm sure he's looking forward to driving it. So I'm going to say this is a win, and quite the explanation on this one, but it was not the average balancing and fixing job either. So we're going to wrap this up, and hope everybody enjoyed the explanation, and we'll move on to the next one.